Hunter S. Thompson, the author of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, once sat down and typed out the entirety of The Great Gatsby, just to know what it felt like to write a great American novel. How better to learn how to do it yourself than to do exactly as the masters have done? So today, I am going to do the same. I have picked 4 masterpieces of art, and I'm going to copy them as best I can to learn what it feels like to have an artistic gift from God. The images I'm copying will all be from Sonichu. First, just a nice image of the titular hedgehog himself. Then, the famous panel in which the line, "But during the Stone Age," is uttered. Next, a scene where Sonic slaps Merrily Walsh across the face, because I want to draw some action. And, lastly, Chris Chan's lowest moment, as he lies in defeat at the hands of his greatest foe. A true tear-jerking sight. So, a little background. I'm really bad at drawing. A few days ago, I was sitting with some friends at a bar watching the World Series, and I had some scraps of paper in front of me. One of my friends asked me to draw Knuckles from Sonic Boom, so I gave it my best shot. It was bad. I knew he had things on his head, but I thought they went up instead of down. I misremembered the Nike swish on his chest as a bandana, and I did an abysmal job on his arms and legs. Here's what Knuckles is supposed to look like. So after my failed attempt, I decided to use a reference image. I looked at this picture and copied it as best I could with a single thickness black marker, and finished with this. That is a huge improvement. My friend saw this and laughed, and another one challenged me to draw Scooby-Doo. Here was my terrifying attempt from memory, and here's my very okay attempt from a reference image. Then I drew Mitsuha from Your Name, but I didn't even attempt to do it from memory, so I ended up with this. The friend who initially had given me the challenge of drawing Knuckles came up with an ultimate test for me. He wanted me to draw the main character from My Little Pony, which I interpreted as meaning Twilight Sparkle, but instead of a tail, he wanted Clifford the Big Red Dog to be coming out of her backside. He wanted Mickey Mouse riding her, holding Aquaman's trident, and he wanted Twilight's horn to be one of Dr. Octopus's tentacles. So here's the finished drawing. When I say I can't draw, I mean that this is the best dog that I'm capable of drawing. But when other people say that they think I can draw, it's because they've seen me do this. So let's see how well I can mimic the style of Christian Weston Chandler. Today is November 1st. It has been 1 year since I uploaded my first video about Chris Chan. I've told this story before, but it bears repeating. I have always been interested in stories. I'm a writer and I've dabbled in video editing before, and I made my YouTube channel to dissect my favorite stories, which for about a year consisted of Star Wars, The Avengers, and a series of unfortunate events. I usually got around 20 views on my videos, but I was determined to keep going. I received some pretty good advice for making videos on YouTube, like how to utilize the algorithm, how to make sure that you love what you make, how to get your audience to relate to you. But I also got some really bad advice, like chasing trends. The first 100 subscribers are the hardest, people reason, so you should chase trends in order to get noticed. And once you have eyes on you, then you can start doing what you want. This is a bad idea. If everyone is chasing trends, then you won't stick out. What I had to realize for myself was that appealing to a niche audience was actually the best way to get noticed. In late October 2018, Chris was getting deeper and deeper into his delusions about the dimensional merge. I have a friend who I talked to about Chris, whose name is actually Chris, but he wasn't around to chat, so I recorded my uncensored thoughts about Chris. This video got a lot of attention, and suddenly I had quite a few viewers. I reasoned that the story of Chris was just as interesting as the fictional stories I had been covering thus far, so I started to make more videos about him. I had my series, The Absurds, which highlighted stranger-than-fiction events and individuals, so I made a video about Chris, mostly from memory. I got a lot of my details wrong in that video. In fact, most of that video is wrong. At the time, I still had under 100 subs, so I didn't really think it was all that important to double-check my memory, but I have definitely learned since then. Since the story of Chris was ongoing, I decided to make weekly update videos about what he had been up to. As I got more and more into the rabbit hole that is Chris, a lot of mysteries started rearing their heads, like the mysterious captain and Chris's absolute faith in the existence of Sonichu. I soon came to discover that the captain was merely one of a few users on Kiwi farms who helped Chris out when it came to securing his social media accounts and dealing with trolls. I made a very popular video about my theories for Chris's delusions, and the largest chunk of the video was dedicated to my tulpa theory, which is now what I am most famous for. The idea is that Chris, like a Tibetan monk, through sheer willpower was able to change the way his brain worked and alter his senses so that he actually saw, heard, and felt Sonichu. I have a video coming up that goes more in detail about this topic. Around this time, I was also chastised for my Dr. Phil petition. Dr. Phil was a big meme at the time because PewDiePie was constantly making videos about him. One of my subscribers suggested getting Chris on Dr. Phil's show. I gave a shout out to the petition, and it very quickly gained over 1,000 signatures. Chris actually sent out a tweet saying he'd consider it, and after that I realized that I had broken the #1 rule of documenting Chris, which is to never interfere. Since then, I've been much more careful about what I approve of. I was approached by a young documentary filmmaker who had paid Chris to let him live with him for a few days and interview him. He had also interviewed Megan Schroeder in person and had what many believed to be invaluable information about Chris. The filmmaker wanted to get big YouTube Christorians to feature in the documentary, giving their thoughts and narrating events from Chris's life. I was happy to agree to be part of the project, but it soon fell apart. The documentary crew put up a Kickstarter asking for lots of money to make and distribute the film, and the Kiwi farms did not like that. A lot of people didn't understand why he was asking for so much money to do what could basically be just done with a simple camera and editing software. People don't like it when you make money off of Chris. I understood the filmmaker's perspective. It actually cost money to submit films to festivals, and he would have to take time off work. But when it came down to it, I figured that if he didn't realize how the Chris community would react to him, maybe he was too much of an outsider to actually get the job done. As of right now, the footage of Megan has been destroyed as she did not want to be involved any longer, and the project is dead. More recently, we have entered the Sockness saga. Jacob Sockness is a delusional autistic man from California who wants to be in a relationship with Chris. Under normal circumstances, my attitude would be that whatever happens between two consenting adults, even if they are both mentally handicapped, is no one's business. But Sockness is not harmless. He has written multiple manifestos on what he believes to be a religion about an evil war god. He practices a cult-like dark magic that often requires sacrifices, and he has tricked Chris into thinking that his magic is real. His influence could actually cause Chris harm, and the community of people who are in contact with Chris were able to convince him not to allow Jacob into his home, for the time being. That story is still developing. I get tweets every few days from Jacob now, as he calls me a troll and espouses his love for Chris. It has been a long year, and where we are right now is so distant from where we were 1 year ago that I can't even imagine what 2020 will look like. At the time of this recording, I am at almost 15,000 subscribers. I am blocked by Chris on Twitter. I'm being cursed out by Jacob Sockness. You guys are asking me questions in my DMs and having conversations with me about ways to help Chris and theorizing what may be happening to him behind the scenes. I really, really enjoy what I do here, and I hope that in the future I'll be able to talk about even more interesting topics. I've just about finished up my drawings now, and I have to say, my wrist actually hurt when I set my pencil down. I don't know how Chris drew Sonichu for so long. It's actually daunting. So here's to another year. Thank you. Honestly, thank you for watching. Go out and zap them to the extreme. If you want to follow me on Twitter at GiBi_Devin, you can. You can also join my Patreon, and you can join my Discord. But if you don't, that's fine. It's your loss.